All right. It's good to be
Episode
back.
32.
Logo update, overlay update, intro is getting figured out because
TBD.
all of them
TBD.
all of them really do suck.
Yeah, they're not great. We've looked through a list of like 500, and they all got progressively worse.
Just not very there's nothing that was like speaking to me. So I have I have some of my team on this one to try to
got our
figure
best guys
something
on
out. Real quick before we get into anything, because you sent me something. I just sent you a mock draft from the Sharp Analysis, and the one thing that just pissed me off so bad is if the Giants actually take a wide receiver with the number 6 pick, I'm gonna freak out. I don't know why. When I looked at that, there's some other stuff that pisses me off, but the Giants just failing to ever take a position of need when they need to since 2016 is just starting to really get to me.
To be fair, they need a wide receiver though.
Okay, they suck though, bad.
They do. But every position for them is a position of need.
Yeah, but would you rather get the number 1 tackle or the number 3 wide receiver? Because at that point, you might as well get the best tackle off the board that you have. And then from there, take a chance on the guy. There's a million wide receivers in this draft class. Take one in the second round and sign Calvin Ridley or something like that. There's just so much more that needs to get done on that team, but whatever. I just wanted to say that if the Giants take Rome Odunze and ruin his career, I will literally hold my breath on it live on Instagram.
For how long?
Until I pass.
Until you unalive.
Until I pass.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of other wide receivers they could take. I do think
there's a million
is going to be good, but yeah, I mean, it feels like they need help at every position. There has been all those rumors, which I'm sure you've seen about. I think Rich Eisen was the one that mentioned it, about how they're just completely done with Daniel Jones. They have buyer's remorse, and quite frankly, I can't blame them for being done because he's not good. So
they need to get Russ in there. I'm just kidding. All right. Well, the combine's over. And with the combine being over, the one thing that stuck out to me this entire week is there a real feeling currently that the public, the media, and even some NFL teams extremely overvalue top end speed? And
no doubt.
I say this because you look for guys who can run in the 4.3 to 4.4 territory, because that's when you kind of know that you're getting a guy that can have that breakaway type speed that is fast enough to do it. But it feels like running a 4.2 is cool, but at the end of the day, you're playing football, you're not running track. So I mean, you kind of answered the question already, but why is it that this top end speed is just completely overvalued? And then after you answer that, I'm going to go into the top 40s in combine history.
I think it's very easy to get enamored with that because obviously we see the guys we've seen Deshaun Jackson, we've seen Tyreek Hill. Obviously, those are two extremely specific NFL players that have had a lot of success with being fast. So I think people are kind of chasing that a little bit, but ultimately, like you said, very overvalued. I mean, you're about to rattle us off the list of the fastest times, and there's been a few guys that have had legitimate NFL success that are running 4.2, 4.3 40s. So I think it might just lead back to that. I mean, realistically, there's no reason that it should be this overhyped, because if you just simply go back to this list you're about to read off, it's very evident that running a 4.2, yeah, it looks cool at the combine and it's fun to talk about, but it doesn't appear to translate that well.
But even like you said, I don't have an issue. This is the message that I'm trying to portray while doing this exercise. Essentially, I don't have an issue with somebody running the 4.2 speed or really fast for that matter. But taking them at a high value pick doesn't seem to make much sense. Like you just listed off two guys, Deshaun Jackson and Tyreek Hill. Deshaun Jackson was a second round pick and Tyreek Hill was a fifth round pick. So like I don't have an issue with taking chances on really, really fast guys, but it seems like when you start to get into the conversation of taking them in the first round with a lot of other stuff on the board and that's available, it doesn't make much sense, at least in my head.
I mean, I do agree with you. I think Xavier Worthy was going to be a first round pick regardless of his 40 time. So I don't like that's kind of where I'm at a crossroads here because I think that
was he though?
Yeah, he was going to be a first round pick,
I mean, right now he's getting mocked to the Chiefs with the last pick in the first round. So he was going to be towards the back half of the first round, regardless, the very back half of the first round. So I think what this 40 did, I don't think he was going to be a first round pick. I think what this 40 did was solidify him to get taken in the back half of the first round. But like that, I don't think that he was like a lock for the first before he ran that fast 40.
Right. I mean, I thought he was going to be a first rounder, but like I didn't really get to finish my statement. I thought he was going to be more of a fringe guy. You're good, but I think that people thought highly of him in an already stacked wide receiver class. And there's nothing wrong, obviously, with being a second round pick, but it almost feels like he's going to be a bust now because of how fast he ran this 40.
It really does. So I'm gonna go through the top 11 guys who ran the fastest 40s in combine history. I want you to stop me if there's any names that pop out to you that you would like to talk about. And then after we're done, I want you to guess how many all pros were on this list. Jacoby Ford, 428. JJ Nelson, 428. Jalen Myrick, 428. Tyron Calico, 427. Stanford Route, 427. Marquise Goodwin, 427. Jerome Mathis, 425. Anything about Jerome Mathis?
Bro, the name rings a bell, but I can't even think of who.
Dry Archer, 426. Chris Johnson, 424. John Ross, 422. Xavier Worthy, obviously 421. Listen, how many all pros are on that list?
Hold on for 1 second. I
don't cheat.
saw. Oh no, I'm not looking at that.
Okay.
I have another list up. I don't know if these are if this is an unofficial, but this is according to NFL.com. But I also see Tariq Woolen in here, and
what did he run?
426.
Okay.
And then Marquise Goodwin in here at 427.
I said that.
And you said Marquise Goodwin. Did you say Henry Ruggs?
I did not say Henry Ruggs because he's in prison and he killed somebody.
Okay. Yeah, of course. Obviously.
Respectfully.
That's not great, but he was up there.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
So even with those two added on the list, how many all pros are on the list?
I mean, Chris Johnson probably had an all pro year. I don't know if he had more than one, but Tariq Woolen, did he have?
No.
No, probably not.
He was a rookie last year. No, he didn't even make all rookie.
Yeah, probably one total.
Okay,
two total years of so one guy getting it 1 year, another guy getting another year, but probably 2 total years.
So Jerome Mathis was an all-pro returner, which you can take that for what it is, like good for him. And then Chris Johnson was all-pro 1 season, and he won Offensive Player of the Year that year.
Yep.
I was shocked looking at his stats, honestly, because I
was right. 2 total seasons of all pros from these. Yeah.
In my head, for some reason, Chris Johnson had a way better career than I thought he did, but I mean, it is what it is. He was like a fun player in Madden, so that's probably why I think like that. So I guess probably like if speed is that important when everybody is talking about this, like I'm specifically talking media at this point, then why are like almost none of the best 40-yard dash runners like all-time great NFL players?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the overarching question of all of this, because all these guys that we just named for being that fast and for how often speed and 40 times are talked about, you would think that there would be more than 2 all-pro seasons out of the top 11 guys.
Yeah. And
So
we even added 2-3 more players who weren't who ran fast 40s who weren't all pros. So
yeah.
it's just interesting. It's something that's like kind of been rubbing me the wrong way. I kind of said it multiple times, but me and Andrew Ford have like a blood pact that like if a wide receiver runs a fast 40 time, we're completely out on him. So yeah, I mean that's the first thing that I want to talk about. The second thing I want to talk about is the Texas fans on social media after Xavier Worthy ran that 40, and all of them were like, he's going to be so special, like blah, blah, blah. Somebody compared him to John Ross. They all started freaking out about that.
That's a terrible comparison. Why would you ever do that?
What do you mean?
Like, why would you if you follow football, you know that John Ross had like an irrelevant NFL career. I don't understand why. Like, obviously that is the comparison, but like,
that's the point.
Why would you be excited about that?
No, you're not. They were freaking out in a negative way.
Oh, okay, all right.
But essentially, what I want to say is that I really don't think that comparison is like that far off. Like they're both skinny, fast guys, and like the only difference is like John Ross had like a way more successful college career than he did. I compared their best seasons. Xavier Worthy's best season was last year, 75 receptions, 1,000 yards, and 5 touchdowns. John Ross's best season was 81 receptions, 1,100 yards, and 19 total touchdowns. He balled that one season. Like people kind of forget about that. Like he was like low key special when he was like coming out, and it just never kind of clicked at the next level. But that's just like what you see like when you're watching some of these college offenses where like Texas had 2 really good receivers last year. Like they had Quinn Ewers as like their quarterback who's like who can sling it. Like a lot of like their numbers and how they look on the field might be inflated when they're in college, and then when they get to the NFL, it just might look a little different.
Well, yeah, of course, because these guys are the number one option, and when you get to the NFL, everybody is obviously the best coming out of college. Like they're the best player normally you're the best player on your team when you are in college. So like you're able to utilize speed and things a little bit differently in college, I think, because obviously it's different when it's 4.2. Like that's a different type of speed.
You're blazing.
But there's a point where it does eventually, like people will start to catch up with you in the NFL to a certain extent. But I don't know. It's just I feel like it's easier to utilize in college. It's hard. It's hard, I think, to really utilize that in the NFL. Otherwise, I feel like there would be more guys that were successful that were running these insane 40s. Like I can't think of anybody outside of Tyreek Hill and Deshaun Jackson who were that lethal of a deep threat, that were that fast. Everybody else, like Randy Moss was a deep threat, but he was going up and getting it. Like Calvin Johnson was a deep threat and he was going up and getting it. Like these guys they were on field fast, but they weren't like ripping off 4.2s. Like those were like big bodies too. Like
I even think of somebody like from a few years ago who like everybody was like pretty high on was like Jalen Waddle. And then like as his career is kind of playing out in the NFL, like I personally think he's a little underwhelming. If like you don't get him like a bubble screen or like something underneath to try to make him kind of like make plays. And then this season you kind of saw it happen. Like he got hurt every single game this year because he's small. Like he's small and fast. And like when you start taking hits in the NFL, like that just doesn't sit well with bodies like that. Like believe it or not, like when Roquan Smith hits you going across the middle, like you weigh 170 pounds, like you're probably going to get up like pretty battered. So
yeah,
I get so talking size, like
I will say one thing. The Eagles did a great job of utilizing Deshaun Jackson. Like I feel like they never really put him in a spot where he was getting rocked by a linebacker. And then Tyreek Hill might be the best player in the NFL at not taking an unnecessary hit.
He never takes unnecessary hits.
He finds
But
himself
he's
like
thick.
he'll be in a spot where I was just gonna say
He's
he's also
thick.
built like a running back.
Yeah.
But he'll find himself like after he catches the ball running down the field and like say it's a safety corner and he'll just like fall down.
Yeah,
Like
he doesn't take the hit, which is smart. I like that. I like that out of his game. But you look at Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill's arms are fucking massive. He has a thick ass, like thick legs, and he's just like he's just like
that's crazy.
he's just like a thick guy. Like even if he were to take on a hit, like I think Tyreek Hill has built himself up, and he's been in the league for forever. So like he's obviously conditioned to it. But staying on bodies, because pause.
Yeah.
Because I was kind of like thinking, because now like both of the Texas wide receivers are like kind of somewhat close to each other, like in some of these mock drafts. Like, so that's kind of what I wanted to ask you from your perspective. Like, if you were a GM, like right now, like you have Xavier Worthy, who's 6'1", weighed in at 165 pounds and ran a 4.21, or would you want Adonai Mitchell, I can't say his name, who's 6'4", 200 pounds and ran a 4.35? Like, what do you think from a GM perspective on a guy that you would want to take and probably from the sounds of the conversation, like I kind of know which way you're going to lean, but go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think both like obviously I think both these guys were good in college, but it all comes back to I'm not deterred from the speed thing as much as you and Andrew are. Like
Yeah.
I obviously notice it, but I think the type of receiver that I prefer anyways is a bigger guy. Like Adonai Mitchell is what, like 6'3", like 205.
He weighed in at he got measured at 6'4", 200 at the combine.
See, like that to me, like when you're growing up and you want to play wide receiver in the NFL, like that's the size person that I would want to be if I was growing up and playing in the NFL as a wide receiver. Maybe put on he'll be able to put on some pounds when he gets to the NFL. That's just normally how it works. But like 6'4" at 200 pounds and running a 4.35, like that's
Different.
I feel like that's all that you can really ask for. As
That's
long as you can catch the football, like that, you have a size advantage on a lot of corners, and you're still running a 4.3. Like that's still fast,
bro. That's blazing. Like I said at the top of this, like because I feel like people kind of get misconstrued a little bit like throughout the course of this, and we'll talk about Keon Mitchell when it gets there. But if you're running like a 4.3 or a 4.4 at the combine, like that is like the definition of like absolutely moving. So like
yeah.
that is kind of like a good bit. Like if you run a 4.3, like that's just as like you're fucking moving too. So
At 6'4", 205.
Yeah,
3 inches and what, 25 pounds more, 20 pounds more.
Exactly. And that's a great way to put it. But even if Xavier Worthy ran a 4.3, that's fast. Like, you know,
Yeah.
that's kind of like what I'm trying to get at. Like, but like you said, like Xavier Worthy weighed in 165 pounds. Like, bro, that's tiny. Like, everybody started trying to compare him to Devonta Smith, like on this week, like on the media rounds. And I'm just like, you can never ever compare any wide receiver that ever comes out of college to Devonta Smith, because he is legit a one-of-one prospect. He was the best college wide receiver of all time.
He's an elite route runner. He's an elite route runner.
He's just a different. You can't compare anybody ever to him, because he is like a legit one-of-one like prospect that you probably will never see again. He is like the best college receiver ever. Had the best college season of all time. So it's just like you can't compare those two together unless if Xavier Worthy had that sort of high-end production.
Yep.
That would be the only way that would like apples to apples in a way, but like he didn't even come close to that. So
didn't sniff it.
So I don't want to hear that as a comparison.
I mean, yeah, I think that's just people grasping at straws, trying to find a skinny wide receiver that is having success in the NFL. Like that's what that says to me is, oh, there's nobody else like Xavier Worthy in the NFL right now per se. So let's just try and like give let's just try and find like the next closest thing, because there's not like what did you say what he was 6'1"?
Yeah, 6'1", 165.
Yeah, there's nobody in the NFL playing wide receiver that's a 6'1", 165-pound guy that's running a 4.2.
And that's why it's like a statistical outlier. And when you're looking at like what has been successful in the NFL, that isn't something that has ever been successful in the NFL. So that's why I'm just confused on how somebody that can do something like that and how there's no like backup to why they like him at a premium pick. I just think it's really risky, and like there's safer bets out on the board who are fast, talented, big, who are probably going to end up being better than Xavier Worthy, but Xavier Worthy ultimately is going to get the nod from some teams just because he ran a 4.21, which it seems like he's going to go to the Chiefs. I don't know how much validity there is to that, but it seems like that's kind of like the landing spot that everybody's putting him at now.
Yeah, I mean, I do think the Chiefs will end up drafting a wide receiver probably.
Seems that way.
Who knows? I mean, hey, he could prove us wrong. He could be like the first actual receiver to run this fast and have a successful NFL career. And I feel like if there is ever a place that it would be in a Chiefs offense. So at this point, if I'm him, I'm praying that that's where I would go.
If you think about it too, like it feels like the Chiefs taking a wideout is like the only real lock of the draft as of now. Like probably the Commanders take a QB, but like them taking a wideout, because even I kind of like the fit. I just with Xavier Worthy on the Chiefs, just taking him at that pick, it's dicey. Like because you have like Rashee Rice, who's like good at underneath. You have Travis Kelce, and then you have fucking Xavier Worthy, who can run a million miles an hour, who can take the top off the defense. I don't hate that, but again, I just don't know if I love it at that pick. But I mean, he's definitely going to go in the first round.
Yeah, I think the only other thing that I would look for if I was the Chiefs is like, is if they trade L'Jarius Sneed, maybe they go and grab a corner. Maybe they try to move up, but like,
yeah, that's fair.
Other than that, it feels like a wide receiver is pretty set in stone.
And I don't know what they're going to be able to. You're not going to be able to really move up with what you're going to get for L'Jarius Sneed at the end of the day. Like he'll probably get like a second or a third round. Like probably nothing crazy, but yeah. But I wanted to get into it. I don't know if you have like your top guys. I know that you said Chop Robinson was going to get ball out, and the Penn State guys usually really test well at the combine, and they all did. Who were your combine top performers that you stuck out to you?
Dude, I think if we just run it back to last week, I think all of the guys that we mentioned had a pretty damn good weekend.
I had Quinion Mitchell, I had Keon Coleman, which we'll get into, and then the three fallers that I had were Bo Nix, JJ McCarthy, and Penix. And it does seem like Bo Nix and Penix are rapidly dropping. It does feel that way. We'll get into the quarterback discussion later, but all of those guys did stick out. Quinion Mitchell ran a 4.33. He was flying. He did his thing. And then I think you should talk a little bit more, though, about like how well the Penn State guys did, because you see a lot of them at the top of each individual combine, like drill leaderboard.
Yeah. So I'll start off with Chop. He was one of like the most athletic guys there as far as like an edge prospect goes.
He really was.
I have the NFL.com combine, his combine results pulled up. He scored an 83 on the athleticism part, which was third amongst edge rushers. 4.48 40-yard dash, 1.54 10-yard split, 34.5 vert, 10'8" broad jump, 4.25 shuttle. He had a fucking great combine. And if I'm him, I'm really happy. I think he earned himself definitely more money. I think because of this, he'll end up getting drafted a little higher. I know that Olu got hurt. He hurt his thigh, so he didn't really get to do a ton from what I saw. There was a couple other guys that performed pretty well.
And it's crazy how fast Olu's dropping in this draft class, bro. It seems like every week that goes by, he is just going further and further down this board for everybody.
Oh, the other person. I think the Penn Stater that had the best overall combine was Theo Johnson,
the tight end.
Yes, tight end. He was first or second out of all the tight ends in 40-yard dash, where he ran a 4.57, 10-yard split, 1.55, 10'6" broad jump, 39.5-inch vert, 4.19 shuttle, and he is I don't even know how tall he is. I think he probably clocked in at like 6'6", 259. Yeah, that's a body.
Yeah, he's big.
Yeah, so he probably had the best combine out of all the Penn Staters. There was a bunch of other guys that put up some good 40s. Daquan Hardy actually had a really good combine as well.
Yeah.
40 he legitimately surprised me. I thought he would do well. I thought he was a really good slot corner at Penn State. It's unfortunate for him that he's slightly undersized. I think if he was a little bit bigger, he would be right up there with the rest of these corners. He was one of the guys that on a week-to-week basis, I was very impressed with watching him. Like I said, he was just small, and the slot corner position isn't a spot that you draft in the first round. But his vert was 42.5, 40-yard was 4.38, and a 10'6" broad jump. Like that's good stuff. Like I said, if he was bigger, he'd be a first-round pick, no doubt.
Yeah, I think that Theo Johnson locked in a spot to get drafted day 3, and probably he locked in a spot to get drafted day 3 as well. So good for them.
Yeah. Yep. So all in all, I was happy with the Penn State guys' performance, which I called last pod. I said they always do well in the combine. Their strength and conditioning coach has these guys locked in every year. It's honestly great because even though the Penn State football seasons tend to be disappointing to a certain extent, it feels like they are constantly having guys getting drafted, which is, I mean, one of the two things that you can ask for as a fan. Like you want your school to be a place where guys are getting to the NFL, and you want to be a place where you win football games. And they only do the second one like 75% of the time, which whatever. But they do send a lot of guys to the NFL, which is great.
They do. All right. We need to address the elephant in the room, because although me and you probably don't feel as if it's as big of a deal as it was let off to be, we both kind of slapped the table, planted our flag in Keon Coleman.
Yeah.
And he went out and ran a 4.640, which automatically seemed to make him drop to the second round, like no matter what. Ultimately, like, and then the gauntlet drill was, he was like the fastest wide receiver.
He was up to 20 miles per hour.
I don't know how, again, like, I don't know how much all of this like matters. Like, you know what I mean? I just think that it's a little disappointing that he ran that, but like also like he has an opportunity at his pro day to like do it right. Like if he did everything that he did at the combine this past weekend and then did not run the 40, everybody would be talking about how he would be like a mid-round, like a first-round, mid-round lock. So I just think it's so funny that like 1/10 of a second could severely drop your stock like that. But at the same time, like if he falls to the second round, there's going to be a lot of teams who are in a really great position to get a really good wide receiver. So ultimately, I think he goes in the first round, but we have to address the elephant in the room.
Yeah, I have his combine breakdown pulled up here. His athleticism score was a 66, which was 37th, which is extremely surprising to me. If you watch this guy play, some of the catches that he was making this past season were just like fucking nuts. Like there was a couple times where he climbed the ladder and was making these crazy catches where that's not like things like that are, I guess like the or the vertical, but I, it means more to me watching him do that in a game rather than watching him jump and hit a stick out of the sky. So that's kind of like how I look at it. What I said to you was, maybe I said it to somebody else, but Jerry Rice ran a slow 40 and
He ran the
his
4.7.
and his on field speed was significantly faster. So that's how I'm looking at it. Now, I don't think Keon Coleman's going to be Jerry Rice, but there's just guys that run faster when someone's chasing them.
Yeah, I
And Keon
mean,
Coleman might be one of those guys.
Larry Johnson ran a 4.7. Anquan Bolden ran a 4.7. Jerry Rice ran a 4.7. 40s aren't everything. Obviously, there's been a lot of successful receivers who have not run that top end speed. But I think that a lot of people are talking about how great how great like Malik Neighbors is, Marvin Harrison Jr., like blah, blah, blah. I think that there's going to be second round, third round wide receivers like Xavier Legette, Keon Coleman, Lad McConkey, who are going to make just as much of an impact on really great teams as like some of those high end guys that will make. And then some of the guys that get taken in the first round, I really ultimately do think that they will flame out. But this is just a really deep receiver class. But like I said, I think that there's going to be guys that go in the later rounds that pop off like they do every single season. Everybody's gonna be like, "Oh my gosh, how did Xavier Legette fall to the second deep in the second round?" And he's a baller.
It happens
But
every year. That's a kid from South Carolina, right?
yeah,
Yeah, he's a baller. I think he would be higher up if this class wasn't so stacked. And I think I saw that Lad McConkey pretty much had the same exact measurables as Garrett Wilson, and he's
I
pretty
did
good.
see that. Yeah, I did
So,
see that.
I mean, there's plenty of wide receiver talent in this class. I'm right there with you. I think there's going to be guys that go in second and third rounds that end up having better careers than some of these guys in the first round.
Yeah, I mean, you look at what happened last season. Puka Nakua ran a 4.640, went in the fifth round. Nobody had a fucking clue who he was. And he has had the best rookie receiving record out of all of these great guys that we've seen come into the NFL over the last X amount of years. So you just never really know what's possible. He broke every record possible as a rookie, and he's really good. So you just never know what you're going to get in the late rounds with these wide receivers.
Yeah, obviously it gets harder to predict certain things. Um, once like the later that you get, honestly, it's hard no matter what. But I feel like the later you get, the harder it is, and the less obviously the less likely it is. But there's always a few. So I'm sure that we'll have that same thing happen this year. I'm excited to see some of these guys pro days too, because I think that that's just another opportunity for them to prove themselves. I will say one of the things about the combine, Rosillo was talking to Todd McShay about this today when I was listening, and Todd McShay brought up how some of these guys, like the quarterbacks that didn't throw and didn't run and didn't do all that stuff, like, and we kind of talked about this, how that's how we kind of think that that might be the norm moving forward, because these guys are like, sure, like Daniels, Marvin Harrison, and Caleb Williams are all like, and Drake May are all like, sure, like the sure thing, 1 through 5, 6, whatever you want to call it. But he got to the point where he was saying how these like if I'm an NFL GM, I want my guys that are these first round guys that are like pretty much locks to be training for football, not to do an NFL combine. And I think I agree with that. Because all these guys that get to the combine probably are like, a lot of them are probably going to end up getting, like, you don't get invited to the combine if they don't think you're going to get drafted.
I mean, that's not
And
true.
really,
No, that's not true at all.
how do they determine that?
I have absolutely no clue how they determine that. I will outwardly say that, and we can do some research and figure that out. But I know for a fact that not every single person that gets invited to the combine is going to get drafted. Like
drafted or like picked up right after.
Yeah, I think that there's probably what they do. I mean, bro, there's guys that get invited to the Senior Bowl and like the East West Shrine Bowl who are like fringe, like free agent 7th round guys.
Fair enough.
So I think it's like kind of going to be the same situation, because if you are this is kind of the way I think about the combine is like, okay, whatever, you're a top end guy and your film matched that and you played really well and you feel like you don't have anything to prove, then it is what it is. But for a lot of these guys who may have not, like Quinion Mitchell's a good example of this, like may have not gotten an opportunity to play against the best of the best, may have not gotten an opportunity to be in front of everybody. Like that is an opportunity to finally be like, okay, I'm in front of all 32 teams. They're all about to see what I can do, and I can either rise or I can fall. So I think that that's probably the direction that the combine will go towards, is like the meetings are always going to be an absolute essential part of the process, because you're getting a job interview. Essentially, we talked about that last week.
Yeah.
But from like the physical stuff, like, yeah, you're right. Like it might not make a ton of sense for some of these guys to do all the physical stuff, but at the same time, like it might, you might want to do it if you're like, I said that about Jalen Daniels last week, where today was like the first day where like multiple people came out pretty much saying like he's like equivalent or like a consolation prize to getting Caleb Williams. And if you don't get Caleb Williams. So that kind of shocked me, honestly, because it seemed like everybody was on Drake May as QB2. And then there seems to be some sort of shift where Jalen Daniels is QB2 now. Jaden. What I thought, like what I said last week was, if Jaden Daniels went to the combine, ran a super fast 40, threw crazy balls, and just like did his thing the entire week there, he would have like stood out. Like everybody would have been like, stamp it. He's the second guy getting taken. People would be like, the Bears are going to take him first. Like things like that, where like, I think that if you're fighting for one of those top spots, like the higher you get drafted, the more money you're going to make. So I kind of think of it like that, where a guy like him, I felt as he should have probably participated. Same with Drake May.
Jaden Daniels actually won the combine. He didn't have to do a single thing, and he already jumped up to the second pick.
Yeah, that's what I just said. I said probably Drake May should have done something too.
Like that's crazy. He didn't do a single thing, and he's like, I don't even know how that happened. Like what?
I think we should just get into it.
Drake May didn't
have
even.
Let's have the quarterback conversation. Go ahead.
Like, I don't understand where the shift happened, where all of these scouts, GMs, everything were just like, you know what? Jaden Daniels is better. Like, did they not watch enough film, like, up until this weekend for them to make this decision?
I think probably some teams, but bro, this happens every year.
It does.
Every single season. So,
but this normally happens after like the combine and these guys throw and people have their pro day. Nothing happened.
Yeah. Hold on. Sip and walk. Can me and you both agree that Caleb Williams is number one?
100%.
Like no doubt, can't miss, number one. So for number two, we have the conversation between Drake May and Jaden Daniels. Sorry. What scares me about Jaden Daniels is he is legitimately a one-hit wonder type of quarterback who had two crazy elite wide receivers who are going to be taken in the first round this year. And then you start to hear people be like, the Joe Burrow comp.
That's what I was going to say.
You can't look at me in the face and say that the Joe Burrow situation and the Jaden Daniels situation is slightly comparable. Joe Burrow
had the best college football season from a quarterback like ever.
But Joe Burrow flat didn't play because he was behind Braxton Miller, JT Barrett, Cardale Jones at Ohio State. he didn't have that opportunity to go and play football, like legitimately, like he couldn't, because those guys are all-time greats at the quarterback position from a college aspect. They were all-time great college football quarterbacks. And then Jaden Daniels sucked at Arizona State early on in his career. He was bad. Arizona State was just not good, and he wasn't good either. And he played with like Brandon Ayuk, who excelled at the next level. And then he finally gets somewhere. He had an okay season last year. I wouldn't say it was elite by any means. And then this season, and we talked about how the college offense might look a little bit different with Malik Neighbors, who people are pretty much saying like is better than Marvin Harrison Jr., and then Brian Thomas, who people are liking him to go in the first round. This smells like one hit wonder all over it. And I don't see how Jaden Daniels excels at the next level. I just don't see it, unless if you do.
I mean, I think that he has gotten better, and I think that
he did get better.
And I don't look at it the same way that I look at the Joe Burrow, because like I said earlier, Joe Burrow like had one of the best college football seasons we've ever seen. But I don't know. It's a weird dynamic because he wasn't terrible last year, but he was pretty good. He was really good this year. And like, I think everybody does this at a different pace. And I think the fact that he had Brian Kelly coaching him probably helped out too, because I think Brian Kelly's a good coach, even if people hate his guts. Arizona State was not a well-coached football team. And I also just think being around... I mean,
bro, they had, respectfully to Arizona State, like they had like maybe the most impressive coaching staff in college football. They had
no doubt, but they didn't put it together.
They had the Bengals head coach. They had Antonio Pierce, who's now an NFL head coach. That isn't.
Who else did they have? Who else did they have?
Adam Brenneman was a former Power 5 coach, but they did. They have it like that. I agree with you. Like it didn't get put together, and he didn't play well when he was at Arizona State. But like Arizona State had an all-time great like coaching carousel, like within their building.
Yeah, they had great names, but like we both just agreed on, they were not putting it together at Arizona State. Jaden Daniels was a guy that I always thought that he had pretty good arm talent, but just wasn't well coached, I don't think, out there. And then when you get to a spot like LSU, you get a better head coach, you get some better guys around you. It's not like this guy was just dinking and dunking all season, I don't think. Like,
no,
he still had to make the throws. And like, we've definitely seen guys get drafted high that had no business being there. I don't know.
I'm not saying that he doesn't get drafted high. That's not what I'm saying. He definitely gets drafted high. I just think whichever team takes him, they're getting fired.
I think my point is some guys that we've seen get drafted high didn't deserve to be there. I think that he is good, and I think he deserves to be the second or third quarterback off the board. I don't know. I can't it's getting to the point where it's so hard for me to even give it like an opinion on this stuff, because I didn't think Brock Purdy was going to be good, and here he is. Like, it feels like legitimately anything can happen. Like Caleb Williams, obviously, we think he's going to be really good, but I don't know. I think Jaden Daniels is going to be. I think he's going to be a decent NFL quarterback. I don't know if he's going to be a superstar, but like I think he's going to be all right.
I just don't think that his game is like going to transfer like to the next level. Like, I just don't see it. Like, I'm not. He's very thin. Like he's very fast. Like, you can't compare him to Lamar. Like, Lamar's a 1 of 1 from a running perspective, and Lamar's low key thick. Like, I just think that I just disagree. I think he definitely 1,000,000% deserves to be taken in the top 3 picks, because he's one of the best 3 quarterbacks. I'm just failing to see on how he has a great career at at the quarterback position in the NFL. That's what I'm failing to like see just from what I've watched from him. Bro, you literally think of every quarterback and like the stuff that happens, you want to almost fade the guy who from recency biased who had a crazy baller season in their 5th year of college football with a COVID season, like the whole nine. Like you fade this type of guy. This is the Kenny Pickett when he had an all-time great college football season. Like you fade these types of dudes who have these like one-hit wonders. And like I said, I think me and you both disproved the Joe Burrow comparison of the one-hit wonder. I just don't think Joe Burrow had an opportunity to play early in his career. Jaden Daniels did have an opportunity to play early on in his career, and he wasn't good early on in his career.
I don't know. I don't think of it as like a one-hit wonder because we did like see him take a jump from last year to this year and like get better. Like I said, he
didn't
bad.
have 2 of these seasons back to back. Like, bro, he went nuclear this year. Like, you can't say he didn't. So, like, It's different between him having a decent season last year and him going like all-time nuclear this season. That's like a complete anomaly compared to all of the other seasons that he had.
But I think that's sometimes what happens when you are in the same system for another year and you have some better playmakers around you. I think the same thing happens in the NFL. Like Jalen Hurts, it happened to Jalen Hurts. Like he had a very mediocre middle of the field, like middle of the pack first season as a starter. And then the second year he took off. Like,
but look what's around him. You can't compare, bro.
I know
you
that.
Can't compare the Eagles roster to Jaden Daniels going to the Patriots.
I know that. And obviously I'll say I'm saying this preemptively of where he ends up, but like where he ends up obviously means a lot too. And that team does and puts around him is super important. But I think that's important for any quarterback in the NFL.
But that's the difference in this situation. You want to that's what we're trying to get to at this number 2 pick. You want to draft a guy that elevates the talent around him. You don't want to draft a guy that you need to worry about everything else around him. Jalen Hurts, whether anybody likes it or not, that is true. Like you need to make sure you need to tailor an offense around Jalen Hurts for him to be successful. Why does Brock Purdy work? Because he has fucking 6 elite ass players that he plays with. If he didn't, he wouldn't be that good. That's a fact. Like if he didn't have George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, Trent Williams, like it's Deebo, like Brandon Ayuk, like he's just not going to be that guy. Same thing with Jalen Hurts. If he doesn't have a all-time great offensive line, a good running game, AJ Brown, who we both think is a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL, and D Smith, like he's probably not going to be that good. Like I kind of view Jalen, like that's where I'm trying to get to at this number 2 pick, where you have somebody like Drake May who he's not a boom bust type player. It's either like Jaden Daniels is going to be like an electric playmaker, or he's just going to fucking suck. Like I think that at some point, like you can kind of look at Drake May and be like, he does have a pretty solid floor that we can fall back on if he doesn't get to that high end level.
I also can't fault these guys for having other good players around them in college. Like I can't fault Jaden Daniels for having 2 good wide receivers like that. You still have to get these guys the ball and you have to do it efficiently, which he did. And I think that's pointing out the fact that he had these 2 guys is like unfair to him. Like I don't need my wide. I think it matters too, but I don't need my quarterback to be Josh Allen at Wyoming and have nobody around him and just somehow will.
There's a mix. I think that there's a fair mix in this situation. Having 2 wide receivers, one's going to go in the top 10. One's going to go in the top 6 potentially. And the other one is going to go in the top 25. Like those are 2 elite ass fucking wide receivers that he had on the field with him that I think could kind of skew. I'm just being we're splitting hairs at this point. We're being skeptical. We're trying to figure out who the top three QBs
But
are.
we have to do this when we're talking about the top 2 and 3 pick. That has to be done. These are the conversations that need to be had when you're in the war room figuring out who your franchise QB is going to be going forward.
And I think it's extremely fair to sit there and look at Daniel's progression over a 4-year career and be like, okay, like he did okay at Arizona State. He didn't play kind of up to expectation. He went to LSU. He started getting his feet under him. He had a solid year, and then he had Malik Neighbors, who we all think is probably going to be a top 8 pick in this year's draft, and Brian Thomas Jr., who's going to be a top 25 pick in this draft, and went all-time fucking nuclear.
I think the biggest takeaway is the fact that he got progressively better every
and
year.
Lastly,
I think that's the biggest thing for me personally as to why I think he will be a decent NFL quarterback.
Real quick, one thing that I don't like about his game too, he does not take care of himself. He takes some bad fucking hits.
I agree with you there. It's different if you're Josh Allen doing that when you weigh 240 pounds, but he weighs like 200 pounds.
And Danny Heitfitz, I forget who it was. Danny Heitfitz said who said this, but somebody said that he's got some Johnny Knoxville in his game. Like he just and it sounds sick. Like I love Johnny Knoxville, but
I would take him number 2 alone off of that. So you just sold me.
That isn't something that I think that I would want to base off of, because he's not really valuing himself. And if he takes those hits at the next level, he actually might get cracked in a half.
Yeah. Also the Bills are just signed Mitch Trubisky. So they just got Josh Allen's backup. Shout out Josh Allen. The guy who ripped his pants. But
okay.
Yeah. But so I agree with you. He definitely does take
draft, who do you have?
I still don't even know. I still don't understand how we got to this point of neither one of Drake May and Jaden Daniels doing nothing this weekend, and all of the sudden the tide's completely turned. I think it's going to be Drake May still second, but I just don't understand where this came from.
Fatigue. Everybody's bored. Bro.
No shit, dude. It sucks.
Right.
If I'm Caleb Williams, it sucks.
Let's have the conversation. It's time. JJ McCarthy is officially the first byproduct of the Brock Purdy era in the NFL.
No doubt.
That is the way that I'm viewing this situation with JJ McCarthy, and why so many teams and so many people are randomly really high on him. It's
it might be Mac Jones, actually. Mac Jones might have been the Brock Purdy before the Brock Purdy.
Mac Jones, dude, is dog shit. But I guess what I'm seeing from him is why this is kind of how I'm seeing why teams like JJ McCarthy. He's really young. So when he gets to his second contract, he's going to be 23. When he gets to his third contract, he's going to be 27 or 28 or something like that.
How old is he?
I think he's 20, 21.
He's 21.
So
you said he was going to get to his second contract at 23?
Or 21, 22, 23.
So it'd be 25.
So 25, and then he's at his second contract when he's 28, 29.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I'm seeing from teams, is they think that his age is a positive in this situation. He's younger, and they're going to be able to sign him to deals when he is young still. He's going to be at his third contract and be 32 years old. 2, sorry, I'm apologizing about me saying his size. He weighed in, he's tall, and he weighed in 20 pounds heavier than what everybody thought he was going to weigh. So he has the size. And he he does win. I think that's something you can't teach winning, whatever the fuck that means. It is what it is. But him being a byproduct of Brock Purdy, the reason that Brock Purdy is currently working in the NFL is because he was a 7th round draft pick and got drafted to an absolutely loaded team. I don't see how JJ McCarthy is going to get drafted to if you drop him into the Vikings, or you said even the Giants, that is going to be an all-time swing and a fucking miss by whoever drafts him. I really think that.
I mean, yeah, I've been in lockstep agreement with you on this the entire time. Neither one of those scenarios are built for uh, a guy like that. Um, I mean, maybe the Giants only because he wouldn't have to play right away, but like that does a disservice to the rest of the Giants because like we said at the very beginning of this, they have so many holes that they need to fill. Pause. Outside of the quarterback position.
Sorry.
So
Listen,
so
real quick too, before you go on, and I want you to pile on top of this as well. If the Giants take JJ McCarthy at 6, he has to play by the bye week. Like he can't just like relax for the year. Like you don't take somebody in the top fucking 10 and then just be like, oh yeah, like he's just gonna sit behind Daniel Jones for a year. It's like no, like he needs to play this season by the bye week.
yeah, I mean, I fully agree with you.
I'm fired up right now. I don't know why.
Well, yeah, because I've watched this kid freaking play all season, and there just was never an ounce of me that was like, "Oh yeah, this kid's a top 5 or top 10 pick, no doubt in my mind." He's like that. Michigan, as much as I hate to admit it, was a fucking wagon.
Yeah, they were.
They had like the best O line in football,
Best defense.
even the best defense, and now they didn't have like the best skill position guys, but
their running backs though.
Their running backs were good, but
they were different.
I'm not. When I say that, I mean like they weren't the guys that are going to transfer to the NFL and be like first round superstars. Was my
yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
But yeah,
great college players.
Correct. They were a fucking wagon, and they probably had the second best head coach in college football. Yeah. So, like, everything was perfectly aligned for him at Michigan. He had to do the bare minimum.
Go ahead.
And when his number was called upon, and he had to do a little bit more than that, he did it. But like, that's not a guy that's going to be able to go out there and carry a Vikings team that is not like they have Hawkinson and they have Jordan Addison. And as of now, they have Justin Jefferson, but like, who knows what's going to happen there? And then the Giants, like, they're a dumpster fire. They're losing Saquon Barkley. I can't even think of who the freaking wide receivers are for the Giants right now.
Sterling Shepard.
Yeah, Victor
He's been
Cruz.
there for a decade.
Yeah, so like touching back on what you said earlier about these are the guys that you draft this early are guys that you expect to be able to carry your team. He's just not a guy that can do that. He hasn't proven that he had to do that. He's had to step up here and there, but it's never been a JJ McCarthy go completely take over and win us this football game. There hasn't been a moment of where he's had to do that. And quite frankly, I don't know if he can. I don't think he can.
Bro, so real quick, the 3 teams that JJ McCarthy has been linked to in the top 15 have been the Giants, the Vikings, and the Broncos. The Vikings, okay, you can talk me into it. They have Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson for now. He might be able to get them the ball, but what if he can't? The Giants suck. If he gets landed on the Broncos, they are literally going to drop a bomb on Denver because they are going to absolutely miss on the Russ situation. They've been blowing up their team all off season, like trying to figure things out. And then if you go and draft JJ McCarthy as the problem solver, like just can't, like, the Walmart people like close the franchise down and just fucking focus on Walmart because you're ruining the franchise because it's just not gonna work. Like you can't continue to take guys that are like extremely questionable and like make a decision like that. Okay, if you sit here and like we were talking about Jaden Daniels like 10 minutes ago. If Jaden Daniels lands for the Commanders, I kind of like that situation that he's in. He gets they're gonna get he has Brian Robinson Jr. They're gonna get DeAndre Swift. It sounds like he's got Terry McLaurin, Zach Ertz, Jahan Dotson's a really great wide receiver. Like they have pieces on their offense that will help back up some of these guys and help the young quarterback to be able to like at least have some weapons. If you throw fucking JJ McCarthy to the Broncos, like what the hell are they going to do?
They were literally just talking. I just saw a tweet today about them trying to get rid of Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy. Like,
Yeah.
I
We were
don't,
6 months ahead on that, but go ahead.
I don't even know what the Broncos are going to be bad for a really long time, I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think the Broncos' best bet, if they feel the need to draft a quarterback, which they need a quarterback. I don't know if drafting it's the right way. They are better off just waiting until the second round, third round, taking like Bo Nix and trying to save money because you're already eating 85 million, and try to just build the rest of your team as much as you can.
But what if you were, and Broncos, for example, or Vikings or whatever, I don't hate taking JJ McCarthy in the second or the third round, but taking him in the top 15 is flat crazy. So that's kind of like the next conversation I have. So it sounds like our top 3 quarterbacks are Caleb Williams, Drake May, and Jaden Daniels. And then I think it stops there for quarterbacks in the first round. I know that that's an unpopular opinion as of right now, but the last few years, this is what has been going on in the NFL draft. I don't know if like NFL executives are sitting down, looking at each other and being like, let's start fucking with the media, because like
I would do that if I was an NFL GM.
2 years ago, it was the Malik Willis show. We were watching him throw deep balls and everybody was like, oh my God, like did you see the deep ball that he threw on the run? And then he fell to the 4th round. And then last year we watched an all-time sad blunder from Will Levis. Like literally, bro, there were people saying that he was going to be the second pick in the draft, the second quarterback off the board, and he fell the whole way to the 2nd round. Like, I think that that's crazy. And I'm feeling the same feeling that I had the last 2 years about this stuff right now, where everybody's really excited on these quarterbacks, and then for some reason they all fall. I think it's almost a guarantee that Bo Nix is completely out of the first. I don't think anybody really likes him as a prospect as of right now. I think it's a really safe bet to say that Penix is completely eliminated from contention from going in the first round. He's old and hurt. We talked about this already. We don't have to talk about it anymore. But like this last name of JJ McCarthy, who seems that everybody is going to be a top lock for the 15, I've heard this before. I've heard people say that this quarterback was a lock to go in the top 5, and then I watched them sit there for an entire night and not get drafted. So, like I said it last week. I'm saying it again. I'm planting my flag on JJ McCarthy. If the over under on the quarterbacks were 3.5 taken in the first round, I'm taking the under. I think it's Caleb Williams. I think it's Jaden Daniels. I think it's Drake May. Those are the 3 quarterbacks going in the first round. JJ McCarthy can suck a dick. He's not going in the first.
Well, I don't have too much more to add to that.
I'm amped up right now. My bad.
No, I think it's deservedly so, because like I don't even understand maybe it's the fact that maybe it's just the fact that these GMs just like didn't see him throw enough. So they're like, oh, maybe he's got a lot left in the tank. Maybe there's stuff that's like super untapped that we didn't get to see when he was at Michigan, because they ran the ball 45 times a game. And then when he did throw and they did ask him to throw the football, he did a good job in small sample sizes. And I think that's why the hype around him about being a first-round quarterback is what it is. That and the fact that he has the size.
I think those are all very valid and fair points. And I think the points that I said too are extremely valid. I think we're thinking the right things about JJ McCarthy and trying to fathom why a team would want to take him in the first round. But even with all of the things that we're trying to sit here and stack up and say, yeah, this is the reason why a team would take him in the first round, this is the reason why a team would take him in the first round, we still ultimately sit there and look at all those reasons, be like, even with all of these reasons stacked up, it sounds like we're making an excuse for him to try to fit him into this first round, and it doesn't make any sense.
No.
And I got a text the other day from somebody that said, where do you have Joe Milton on your big board? Joe Milton's not even on the fucking board. So don't text me about Joe Milton.
Joe Milton will go in the 6th round.
He will not be fucking drafted. Joe Milton sucks. Go ahead.
He
Sorry.
has a cannon, and it's fun. It was fun to watch him throw the football 100 yards. But I mean, the reason Tennessee was good last year was not because of him; it was because of that defense.
All right, dude. Well,
Take a deep breath, man. It's
I
gonna be
think
all right.
I think we got our quarterback discussion figured out. And I know that I said that you were going to kick off the show with the stuff that you had planned, but they didn't pan out that way. So I need you to take over.
Okay, so as we know, also I want to start off with this. I didn't text you about this, but Jason Kelsey obviously retired. My dog, my guy. It was very sad watching his press conference. I wish him well in retirement. I'm gonna miss him. The Eagles are gonna miss him. I think he ends
he'll
up.
be fine.
I know. I think he'll be all right though. I will say that I think at some point he will be like a coach. I don't think it's going to be right away, but I just think he loves football and being around it too much that he'll want to, maybe not a coach, but like something within the Eagles organization.
No way. He's going to be in the booth calling games, bro. I'm telling you right
fair.
now.
That's fair. He was good at that when he would pop in every once in a while last season.
He had retirement written all over him. That guy was in media mode midway through the season, showing up on Monday Night Football, the whole nine. Like, you kind of knew that his career was over. Hall of Famer, all-time great. It was awesome. Yeah. I saw the little clip of him and Travis talking about it today, and I like teared up a little bit. Like, it was awesome. Like, they're brothers. Yeah. They both are Hall of Famers. That's, at the end of the day, that's pretty cool.
It's honestly both Super Bowl winners. It's literally as cool as it gets.
Yeah, it's sick.
Next, the college football, NCAA football that's coming out. They gave all the players opportunity to opt in or opt out. And I think if you grew up playing football and grew up playing video games, being in a video game is like, besides going to the NFL, that's like the coolest thing that you could possibly ask for. And Arch Manning opted out, which I think is literally the biggest pussy shit ever. All you have to do is sign a paper that says, yeah, I'm in. NCAA football, I believe I saw this somewhere. They're making it so you can't even create him and put him in the game. So that's so lame. I don't respect that move at all.
I think that Archie Manning and his camp have been the most unlikable team that has entered college football in a long time. Like, hey, buddy, go to SMU, put on a fucking Nike uniform and try to go play football, because you're never going to play at Texas. You're dog shit. And just because you're going to have like a 71 overall in fucking NCAA football doesn't mean that that you can run, because we're right here in front of your face and you fucking suck. So
yeah, go to the MAC,
go to the MAC, go
play for Akron and let Schuster coach you.
Go play for a team where you have a snowball's chance in hell of starting. That Manning last name is not going to save you, pal.
See, if I was Peyton and Eli, I would have, and I saw that report, I would have called him immediately and been like, why are you being a hardo?
Yeah, I don't know.
Just opt in. Like, people already know that you're a backup.
No, he's an eye guy. He's a backwards hat eye guy.
He is a backwards hat eye guy.
Like, if you have to sit there and make a situation about yourself, like, because he doesn't get any attention because he's good at football, he is now seeking negative attention. I'm out on Archie Manning. Go play in the fucking MAC.
I am too. That's enough for me to be out. Like I said, dude, growing up, playing football, playing video games, seeing you on a college football game is as cool, like the second coolest thing that you can do. I'm fucking
30 years old and I make myself in fucking mad
every year. It's crazy. That's like one of the coolest things you could possibly do. And the fact that he said, "Oh, I'm just going to worry about playing football." Give me a break, man.
Yeah, grow up.
Grow up is right. But yeah, that, and then the other thing that I wanted to mention was just like the Bills are getting rid of everybody, but then they just for some reason signed Mitch Trubisky, so their plan is working.
I think
I don't know what their plan is, but
I think this is something that I covered in their playoff loss a couple months ago, when we pretty much said, like, if this roster is built to take out the Chiefs, the one team that you guys need to beat is the Chiefs. And the last 3 seasons, you guys have fell short. You have to blow it up and start fresh, because this current construction of the roster is they're never going to be able to get it done. This was the year to do it. Last year was the year to do it. The overtime game was the year to do it. They can't get it done. Blow it up, start fresh, and that's exactly what they're doing. They need to get better.
They released Tre'Davious White, Jordan Poyer, Mitch Morse, Deontay Hardy, Saron Neal, and Naheem Hines. It looks like Von Miller and Rasul Douglas agreed to adjust their contracts to free up some cap space. They just signed Mitch Trubisky. They re-signed Taylor Rapp, 3-year deal. Re-signed guard David Edwards, 2-year deal. Re-signed Matt Hack, 1-year deal. There was something else. They just traded Ryan Bates to the Bears too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
they're active. They're really active.
I mean, I think that's great for them. I think the next. I know that we've talked about Diggs.
That's the next move.
Potentially leaving. I think that could probably be
the next move. Diggs is gone. It's obvious. Like, they just need to figure out a way. Like I said, this current construction of the offense and the roster and all that stuff, they can score 1 million points. Josh Allen can do his thing. Ultimately, at the end of the day, if you're not winning the games that matter, you're going to have to reevaluate some things. I think that they can ultimately get better, and I think that they're going to get better. You could tell by how active they are that they obviously saw this as a priority. Instead of sitting back and like running it back one more time and then seeing what would happen, they're taking action. I like it.
Yeah. Yep. I think so too. I think they just need to create as much cap space as they can. They've got Josh Allen, so like I said, I think they'll always have a chance. But yeah, I think it was time for them to really narrow it down, like you said, and get younger. I think that was it. I do have a couple tweets in here that I wanted to talk about. I know that we just got you all fired
all fucking night.
I know that we just got you all fired up, but I saw Chris Sims today tweet out, here's my top 6 QBs in this year's NFL draft. These rankings are based on film. Full pod coming soon. I want to start this off by saying I fucking hate Chris Sims and I think he's an idiot. But we can save that rant for another day. So
listen, honestly, at the end of the day, the first and foremost thing that I think that Chris Sims is right about is that Jalen Hurts isn't that great. So I do agree with him on a lot of the stuff that he has to say about quarterbacks. I think that he's incredibly too low on Drake May out of the other people who are on that list.
Yeah. So it sounds like you saw this list already.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. So we got Caleb Williams, a class of his own, tier 1. Jaden Daniels, tier 2. He has him listed as number 1 in other years. So any year basically that Caleb Williams isn't there.
Fair.
This is where it gets strange. Tier 3 franchise starting quarterback. Bo Nix, number 4, Michael Penix, number 5, JJ McCarthy. I don't know what film Chris Sims watches, but it can't be the same thing that everybody else is.
Dude, listen.
The fact that Bo Nix is at 3 is mind-boggling. He's 29 years old. And do I think Bo Nix was a good college football quarterback? Yes. Do I think he's a franchise starting QB? Absolutely not. Bo Nix will be a guy that is a backup quarterback in a year.
Respectfully, and I mean this with like literally the utmost respect.
I want you to have zero respect.
Bo Nix isn't, bro. This is what people need to understand. Bo Nix and Michael Penix Jr. will never start in the NFL ever. Unless if somebody gets hurt. It's the only way they're going to play. They are 57. They're me and Noah's age.
Yeah.
we've been out of college for 6 years.
It's time to
Like,
get a real job.
and there's nothing wrong with that. And that's kind of like Michael Penix is going to go down all-time great college football quarterback. He had 6 years in college. He had 4 injuries. Nobody is going to take him as a real viable option as their franchise starting quarterback moving forward. And if you do, the GM is going to be fired because that is a bad judgment call by the GM. 2, Bo Nix isn't good.
Enough to be a franchise starting quarterback.
No.
I thought he was good in college. I thought he was good at Oregon. I think he was a good college quarterback. That's like the most that I'll say about him. I think he was good. Great? No, but a good college quarterback? Yeah.
I'm right with you.
The only thing that I think, I mean, outside of, I mean, I think he's got Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, and Drake May, I think are probably interchangeable, but it seems like the only thing that he got right was McCarthy at 5. McCarthy should be behind Spencer Rattler. That's just my personal opinion, but he's got 6 as tier 4. Drake May, talented project. The thing that I cannot wrap my head around is how some of these guys, like, how I want to know what certain NFL teams and certain scouts decide as their most important factors for projecting a quarterback to be good in the NFL, because
I'm sure it's different for everyone.
I was just going to say, it seems like it varies for everybody, which is to be expected, but I don't understand how so many people can have Drake May up at 2 or 3, and then this guy has him at 6. That, like, worse than Bo Nix. I don't get that.
Well, I mean,
now he could be doing it for clicks, which is probably what he's doing because he's a fucking dickhead. But either way,
no, he's definitely.
Can we also stop doing that? Like,
What?
Can we just stop doing outrageous mock drafts and QB rankings for clicks? It's the most annoying thing ever.
Yeah, but this is the JJ Reddit conversation that me and you never had. Is 85% of the fan base loves outrageous, stupid stuff that doesn't really make a ton of sense stuff, because that is what is interesting and fun talking points. And I mean, same thing with somebody texting me being like, where do you have Joe Milton on your QB board? It's like, well, if you like pay attention, like 20%, like you pretty much know that like Joe Milton's not like a serious NFL prospect. Like no matter how big and how strong his arm is, like it's just like he's not like this year, like he is not like a serious like NFL prospect. So there's really nothing to talk about. But like people saw one throw that got probably the most views out of everything at the combine, and they probably think that he's one of the best quarterbacks in this upcoming draft class. Like that's just like how it works. So I listen, it's not me and you, like we were gonna do an episode of like why going viral like always isn't a positive thing. Like a lot of the viral content like isn't great content. It's just what drives the most. Oh, he's right. Oh, he's wrong. Like I think it's just what you like to consume on the consumer basis. It might not be the most profitable or the most popular thing. Like, but I'm with you. Like, I don't like that stuff, but I also don't pay attention to like those types of shows. Like, you know what I mean? Me and you listen to a lot of the Ringer podcasts. I think all of those guys don't really say outrageous stuff, like to be completely honest. Like, so I just think it's about,
they don't need to. Like those guys, the Ringer, all those guys on the Ringer, all those guys like Big Cat and PFT, like on Pardon My Take, like those guys are the biggest in sports.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't need to say outrageous shit for people to listen to them. Now, Big Cat and PFT do it sometimes, but like everybody knows that it's a joke.
Yeah.
Chris Sims does it because people because he wants people to look at him because he's an eye guy.
Yeah, he's a backwards hat guy.
Yeah, it's just disgusting. But I guess it's good for us because it gives us stuff to talk about. It gives me something to get actually mad at.
No, and you're right. I mean, I'm with you. I don't like that kind of content. I'm judgmental about like when like Adam does it. Like, you know what I mean? When Adam's only
Yeah.
posting something like strictly for engagement. I'm like, that is so stupid. Like, that's dumb. And like we talk about me and you talk about like stuff like this all the time because of we have similar interests in like music or like clothing or what brands in general. Like,
Yeah.
the longevity of a lot of things like isn't built on what can be the most viral and what does the best. Usually what happens over time is like that dies out, or it might not die out, like the person might not die out, but like their takes will die out. And like, but if you create like a good piece of content or a really good take or something along those lines, that one piece of content or a take or whatever can like age gracefully over time and make you look really good. So it's just like a balance of like what you're looking for. And I think I speak for me and you both where like we don't really care about like that viral type of we don't really care for that viral type of content that's like clickbaity, argumentative, like type shit where it's like, well, that's just like that doesn't make much sense, but it's gonna get clicks.
I think we've already kind of see it die out because Skip Bayless was like the king of clickbait tweets, headlines, and ever since Shannon Sharp left, I don't even remember what that show was called. Ever since Shannon Sharp
I
left,
don't know
like I haven't seen anything really about Skip Bayless, which
at
thank
all.
God because he sucks too.
And
But
every time that he does like tweet something ridiculous, everybody just like shits on him. They're like, dude, shut
yeah,
up. Like, you know what I
because
like?
he made his entire shtick like not liking LeBron is what his entire thing is.
Yeah.
And
And he's
it's just like
listen,
not like I
he's an
get not
all-time
liking
great.
some.
Like,
Yeah, of course, but like I think it's gotten to the point where people are just like also
over
it
it.
comes with people not watching as much TV probably as far as consuming this shit. It's probably has something to do with that. Um like more people are probably like for sports they're going to podcasts or like they're going on X or TikTok or whatever. But and feels like less people are watching like First Take and pardon the interruption whatever. I don't even know what half these shows are called anymore.
Bro, I
But
think a lot of people still watch those shows, bro.
I
They're just bad. Like, I'm with you. I listen, to sit here and think like people actually watch those shows and like get their information from it and then like want to talk sports or whatever is like kind of crazy because like they don't really, they're honestly like they might know more people, but they're not empowered by like producers or the network to use good information. They're empowered by the network and the producers to say the most outrageous thing on that show. So I do like a lot of these people are extremely connected, extremely tapped in, know a ton of shit, but like they're not empowered to go out and say the shit that makes sense.
and I think that's why like Stephen A has probably pivoted to like his own podcast because I think he does actually talk about like he doesn't it feels like he does the things that I see from the Stephen A podcast, one, super random a lot of the time. But two, it also feels more of like a genuine as to how he feels about things rather than just trying to get a headline on ESPN. Like
Bro,
the
I
other day,
saw
literally talked about where he's dropping in Fortnite.
bro, I was just about to say that. Bro, I was just about to say that. I was
And
like watching it and I was like, I thought it was like deep. I thought it was like AI deep fakes or something. And he was like, where are we landing? I was like, what the fuck is this? But no, I
honestly,
like,
kind of fire.
yeah, it was funny. Like I like like you said, like Stephen A. Smith, like shifting to his own thing. He was on Bill Simmons like not too long ago. And like
He's been when he had the book coming out, he did his book press tour or whatever, and went on all the podcasts.
and
For
Bill hinted at some stuff like that. I mean, that's why Bill ultimately ended up leaving ESPN was because he didn't want to do the type of content that they were doing. He was like, why would we do that? Like when I can do this do it my way and like report correctly and like make a difference.
Yeah.
Like, and that's ultimately where I think that there's a fine line of like what you really want to do is like have some integrity doing this, and it might not be always the most viral thing or whatever, but like if you keep your integrity, like maybe over time, like it'll work out.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. And plus, like it's just better. It's just more enjoyable to listen to these guys like take things serious rather than try to make the most outrageous comments possible. But
I gotta listen to. I didn't know Rosillo had McShay on, so I'm gonna listen to that because I love those guys when they get
yeah,
in the stew together.
yeah, he ran through his top 10 picks. I have to go look at I have to go look at some of these mock drafts that these guys have done. But yeah, I'm looking here right now for some of these pro days just to keep an eye on moving forward. Obviously, the big one's USC. Looks like they're hosting their pro day in like 2 weeks. Let me see here. Yeah, March 20th is what I'm seeing. So that's definitely going to be a day on a lot of people's radar. I'm going to tune in. I want to see Caleb Williams throw. I wonder if hopefully Drake's there.
He would have to be, right?
Drake's running routes.
Bro, yeah, I'm definitely excited now that the pro days are coming up and this process is finally starting to come to a conclusion, but
So much work to be done if you're these guys still. So I think that's all I got for today.
that's all I have too. I'm gonna try to figure out this intro and see if we can get something figured out. But I mean, obviously we got the new overlay. I'm working on
Love
getting.
it.
We're about to get a new like button with some stuff and some social media platforms that we're going to be putting out there. But yeah, we're just rolling and like I said before, we are now that we've done a full season. We're good.
It's time to turn it up.
Yeah. All right, brother.
All right, go Birds.